Hey, what is going on, guys? Danny here. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing well. So we got some interesting CPU news and rumors that has been circulating the web just recently. I thought I'd give you guys my thoughts on it. To be honest, these days I've been finding myself more interested on, I guess, what's going on the CPU side of things as opposed to what's going on in the graphics and GPU side of things. Mainly because, well, really, there isn't much going on in the GPU space, right? We just recently had some rumors about the RTX 50 Super Series that was supposedly canceled, but maybe coming back for a release in early 2027. I made a video on that. You guys can check it out. It's something that I'm mainly going to be ignoring, and I've told everyone else, unless you really need more VRAM, then it's not of much relevance. And who knows what the pricing on those cards is going to be, right? With everything that's going on in the industry. And then with the CPU side of things, we recently had the 5800X 3D. Um, that was recently announced at Computex along with a 7700X 3D, and I made a video on that too, so you guys can check that video out if you're interested on my thoughts. The 5800X 3D is certainly interesting because at the price point AMD announced it at, clearly it's a cash grab for a lot of, like, people who are feeling, I guess, nostalgia, or it makes sense for those who are on AM4 and, who are maybe looking to jump to a new platform, right? They were looking for an upgrade, and then all of a sudden the Rampocalypse happened, and now everyone, is priced out of DDR5, mostly everyone. So people are, who are still sticking with DDR5 are stuck on these older platforms and thinking, shit, now what the hell do I do? So, the 5800X 3D, it's back, it's coming back, and that could be maybe a viable solution for some people who are looking to upgrade from an older processor, but don't necessarily want to jump platforms or, do a whole upgrade and want a easy in-socket upgrade. So, there are some, arguments to be made for that product. So go check that video out. I went over a few reasons. But I mean, this bit of news actually comes out at a pretty interesting time too, because it looks like what Intel is doing now is they're basically responding to AMD's move with the 5800X 3D, right? Because as you guys know, with the whole Rampocalypse situation, right? Before, if someone was looking to build a Core Ultra 200 series system, or even something on AM5 with AMD, right? With AMD, I tell people, yeah, just get your typical 6000 CL30 kit, 32 gigs, and call it a day. Those back in the day, before the whole situation started, could have easily been had for like $90, $100. With Intel, I'd always tell people, no, Intel's memory controller is a lot more robust and, versatile and more extensive, right? It is able to handle higher frequencies and better timings than AMD can at a lower ratio. So with Intel, if you had a 2-DIMM LGA 1700 motherboard, I'd say go for that 8000 mega transfers plus configuration. Get that full low latency speed, get that full effect. I mean, you can still get it pretty good tuned with like 7200 or 7400. Granted, you do some work with the timings. And then with Arrow Lake's memory controller was absolutely fantastic. Boom, on my first try, I dialed in 8600 mega transfers, absolutely easy on a 4-DIMM motherboard. So I was super impressed with that right out of the gate, right? So with Arrow Lake, you could easily rock like 8,000 plus mega transfers, even though some people apparently recently have been coming out saying, no, 8,000 is unstable in Arrow Lake. Absolutely insane. Don't listen to them. But with Arrow Lake, you could easily get obtain high frequencies with memory kits. And if you had one of those 2-dimmer boards, 9,000, 9,600 plus, even 10,000 plus, I've seen it be attainable on Arrow Lake. But yeah, that was all fun that we used to have before, RAM started shooting up in price. Now it's like, yeah, $600, $700, $800 for like a 32 gigabyte kit, depending on the configuration with its frequency and timings. So yeah, naturally people are priced out and they're like, what do we do? What are some alternatives? So alternatives being DDR4. Now DDR4 has actually been also going up in price if you haven't been looking recently, but and that's because people are like, okay, if I can't get DDR5, I'll jump to a platform that still has DDR4. Maybe you still have DDR4 laying around, right? So maybe you can make use of that. DDR4, like, it's been out since 2014 is when it went mainstream. So chances are, if you've been in the space for a while, you might actually have a DDR4 kit laying around. Even if it's 16 gigabytes, that'll still do the job, right? But when it comes to these older platforms and what Intel is doing here, yeah, they took a page out of AMD's book, and what they're going to be doing is they're going to be refreshing Raptor Lake for the second time, I guess, right? So with Raptor Lake, The first iteration was the 13th generation. So you have your 13900K, 13600K, and then you had Raptor Lake refresh, the 14th generation, which was essentially, just a mere clock speed bump, with the 14900K, 14600K, 14700K. I think 14700K did have some more E-cores put on that versus the 13700K. But aside from that, there were no other major changes. I'm still rocking a 14900K. It's been about 2.5 years since I put it in my personal system. I've absolutely had zero problems with it. This thing runs like a beast, handles all my productivity workloads just fine. I do have a 2 dimmer board. I splurged and went for the Apex, but I'm glad I did because dialing in memory on that thing was super easy. From day one, rocking 8,000. Didn't really go higher because I didn't personally feel the need to. But maybe the memory controller on this thing is good, and maybe I can get like 8,600. But anyways, going off on a tangent there. Yeah, have had no issues. I know, this was when, like, in the middle of 2024, and then 2025, the whole fiasco started with the whole degradation stuff, right? And I mean, that is definitely on Intel and also the motherboard manufacturers that they should really be, tuning their stuff to work correctly out of the box. I mean, yeah, if you have the know-how, sure, you could have you probably foreseen it with the whole single core boost shit and the crazy spikes that people were seeing with their core vids. So that's what I noticed too. So I had my 1400K dialed in from day one with the AC/DC load line. I undervolted it that way. I've had no issues with it. But with that said, we have the Raptor Lake second iteration coming out, and this is where people are getting disappointed because when it comes to Raptor Lake, right, it's going to be on LGA 1700. So this is going to be a little bit weird and awkward. I mean, if this is even true, right? Take it all with a grain of salt. So the source of this whole rumor, I have the video cards article pulled up here. So the source of it is Jakin on Twitter, and not really sure of his track record. I know he's said some stuff in the past. Not sure how much of it has come through. He's been around for a while, right? So there's some merit to be had there. But he's basically saying that there's going to be, a 14th generation or a new series coming out of Raptor Lake. That'll maybe have a few special features, software features, but other than that, it's just going to be Raptor Lake all over again. And it's going to be on LGA 1700, which is nice because the thing is, there was another rumor. I'll see if I can find it and I'll edit it in. But basically, it was saying that motherboard manufacturers are actually going to be preparing more DDR4 variants for LGA 1700 motherboards. Because if you guys recall, Raptor Lake and even Alder Lake has the memory controller works with both DDR4 and DDR5, which is a huge plus. I wish, going forward, even Arrow Lake worked with DDR4. That would have been certainly interesting, right? But yeah, the advantage here is that with DDR4, because it's cheaper, and you get a LGA 1700 motherboard that's a DDR4 variant, you can build a system that'll be substantially cheaper than if you had gone with DDR5. Now, obviously, you are going to be running into a performance penalty there, right? It's not going to be that bad. It's still going to be performing and will be totally capable, right? It just depends, right? Like if you compare like 8200 mega transfers on a 14900K with tight timings versus, and if you have Samsung BDI, right? Like that's the other thing with DDR4 is like, so there's some good, if you can find Samsung BDI, I don't even think that's in production anymore, but if you're comparing that, then, DDR4 still holds up well. If you're going for your usual, what was it? The Hynix, it wasn't MDI, it was something else. I forgot the name. It's been a while with DDR4, but if it's like your typical 3200 mega transfers, CL16 stuff, CL18 stuff, not the best, but it'll do the job. So you'll see quite a bit of a performance penalty there, but you'd still get a playable experience, right? It just depends on what your targets are and what you're after. But the main thing is, yeah, it's going to be saving people money. They can repurpose any DDR4 they have laying around, and hopefully these motherboards will be cheap. And that coincides with this rumor because the motherboard DDR4 rumor came out before this. So, things are kind of coinciding here. So chances are this is likely going to happen. And like I said, this is actually a pretty good response to what AMD or what Intel is going to be doing compared against what AMD did with the 5800X3D. Now, the reason why I said that this is somewhat also disappointing is because, well, we know there's Bartlett Lake out there, and Bartlett Lake is what is a very interesting series because Bartlett Lake has, if you look at the way the tile is designed on Raptor Lake, 4 P cores or 4 E cores take up as much space as one P core, right? So 4 E cores take up as much space as one P core. So with all those E cores removed, Intel basically made a 12P core part. It's out there. I mean, some people have even tested it. Some people have flashed custom modded BIOS on some gaming motherboards. I think there was an Apex board that was flashed, and some outlets even ran gaming benchmarks. Unfortunately, they didn't know what they were doing and they didn't properly tune it. So they're like, it's not faster than a 14900K, which I find kind of hard to believe. I think if you really if it was put in the hands of someone who knows what they were doing, I think the 12P core part would have been, for the vast majority of time, outperforming a 14900K. I mean, depends on the game, right? Like some games actually do take advantage of E cores, right? Like Battlefield 6 is a perfect example of that. A game that just absolutely loves cores. But typically going monolithic and one type of architecture, one type of core is the way to go for gaming, and it provides like the best lowest latency scenario there too, even though clock speeds might be lower, right? So some people only focus or get fixated on what the clock speeds are, and they're like, yeah, it's not going to be faster, but you also have to take into account, latency and all of that as well. But Bartlett Lake, if Intel really wanted to make a splash here and really say that, okay, you know what, we hear you guys. What we can do is we can actually offer you guys like one of the fastest gaming CPUs on the planet, and actually make it compatible with not just DDR5. So if you're fortunate enough to have DDR5, great. But if you need to still stick around DDR4, no problem. We got you guys covered, and we're gonna give you this awesome banger of a CPU that'll work with your older RAM sticks. And yeah, have at it. This thing's gonna totally blow the 5800X3D out of the water. I don't think it'll be cheap if Intel ever decided to, if they did decide to release the 12P core part. I'm pretty sure Intel would also try to charge a premium for this, considering they know, like, within the enthusiasts and even the gaming community, how much people want a processor like this, right? Even like a 10 core a gaming part that could work well too. It's just interesting that like they decide not to release Bartlett Lake and they decide to go for another iteration of Raptor Lake. It's really bizarre what they're doing, because Bartlett Lake is out there, but it's only for like embedded and custom systems and servers. I mean, it's still a socketable CPU. It's not like it's like soldered on. You can. I think I've even seen some engineering samples out there in the wild that that's how some people obtained them. But yeah, it just sucks that they're not releasing Bartlett Lake to consumers and they would rather do Raptor Lake. And then there's going to be that whole concern about, what if these Raptor Lake parts also have the whole degradation issue? Is this silicon fixed? Is Intel, like, what's Intel going to be doing in terms of making sure there's safe specs? And what about that whole single core boost stuff that was killing processors? So there's a lot of questions to be had here. But these are certainly interesting moves. I for one, welcome it, because like I said, right now with the whole industry flipped upside down on its head and DDR5 just being absolutely astronomical in pricing, people need these kind of alternative solutions, right? Not everyone has a great used market that they can access, right? Some people have amazing used markets. Some of my friends and other YouTuber buddies tell me all the time they found banging deals getting systems for free. You guys, you know who you are. But some people, unfortunately, they're still selling systems for like that came out in 2017 and still selling them for their old 2017 prices. So it's a very your mileage may vary type of situation depending on your region and what your used market situation is like. So having these new products come back into the market, new options, whether it be the 5800X3D, whether it be Raptor Lake, or by some miracle Bartlett Lake, and these all work with DDR4. Hey, now all you guys who are priced out of DDR5, you now have another viable avenue that's not going to break the wallet or break the bank. But yeah, that's certainly going to be interesting. We'll see how this all plays out. I don't think, if Intel does release this Raptor Lake Silicon, I personally don't see myself going out there, rushing out and testing any of these CPUs, because just go out, look at my Raptor Lake 14900K testing videos. I've done a whole bunch of head-to-heads with the 9800X3D as well, so you guys can review all that if you want. But I don't know, maybe I've yet to actually experience, Raptor Lake on DDR4, so maybe, if MSI comes out with the motherboard, MSI and me, we have a pretty good relationship, and, they come out with a DDR4 LGA 1700 motherboard for a refresh for 2026. Maybe I might hit them up and be like, hey, do you guys want to maybe send that over? I want to do some testing and feature it in a video. So maybe we'll see how we can go about doing that. But other than that, just more things kind of being put out there to appease consumers, kind of like pacifiers, if you will. And that's going to really wrap it up for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the information. And yeah, leave a like, comment, do all that stuff. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.
If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.